Version 3.5 of the Abyss is a free-to-play nightmare. So in this video, I'm going to show you my experience with trying to use a guide that is supposed to be free-to-play friendly. Now keep in mind that everything in this video is based on my own personal experience and is just my opinion. You may have some different experiences and opinions on this matter. If you do, let me know in the comments. Also, I wouldn't say that I'm free-to-play. I do purchase Welcome Moon and Battle Pass every month, and I have purchased Primogems for wishes in the past. However, I'm nowhere close to being considered a whale. I would describe myself as a casual spender. I've only been playing for a little over a year, and in that time, I've been able to get quite a few 5-star characters, but I wasn't able to 36-star the Abyss until just over a month ago. I was only able to do this because in the last version of the Abyss, you could get away with running 2 Dendro teams. Most of the good 5-star characters that I have, and that I've invested in, are Dendro, so this ended up working in my favor. I knew at some point I would need to start working on other teams though, that didn't involve Nahida or Nilou. And then came the new Abyss. I tried over 100 times to figure out some teams that could work, without using a guide, because I like to do things on my own for whatever reason, with varying success. Until finally, I was forced to look for a guide when I was unable to 3-star the final chamber. All because of this ridiculous creature. It's not tough, it's just that you can only damage it for 30% of the time you're fighting it, so I was forced to give up and try something new. I looked at a couple guides and had noticed that the main problem with the final chamber is that you have to finish the first half quick, in like 40 seconds or 50 seconds at most. So that's kind of a problem for me, because I don't have enough pyro characters that I've invested in to really quickly take care of all the cryo shields that you have to deal with in the first half of floor 12. So anyway, after looking at a couple guides, I settled on trying this team from I Went to Lose Gaming's video. In this video, the team looks very promising, and I've been wanting to make a video about Dia and Xinyan anyways, so I figured this would give me a good excuse to rank her up. Also, the next team I wanted to work on was a national team, so because it looks like this team is pretty much what I wanted to rank up next anyways, I decided to test them out. When I first tried this team in floor 1, it was very obvious that I was going to have to start working on these characters, and hopefully rank up some of their artifacts along the way. However, this is where I ran into my first hiccup. I grossly underestimated the amount of time it takes to get 4 characters from rank 70 to 90. So it was here that I decided that maybe I could swap Hazo out for the Wanderer, who I've already ranked up to 90, and he has decent talent levels. I remember seeing a showcase video around when Wanderer released, and from what I remember, the Wanderer and Hazo did about the same amount of damage in a full rotation. But again, I quickly ran into another problem. Wanderer is the definition of a hyper carry. You have to use him on field in order to do the same amount of damage that Hazo does in a single quick punch. So I had to backtrack to working on ranking up 4 characters again. Once I got Xinyan to rank 90, Xiangling and Bennett to 80, I decided to give it another try. I was also able to rank up some artifacts and talents on all 4 characters, so at this point I figured that I should be able to tell if this team is even going to be possible for me. And after failing countless times, I decided that no. Even if I rank up all these characters to 90, I would probably also have to rank up all their talents to 9, and even then, I would still struggle to 36-star this Abyss. A lot. I'm pretty sure that it would take getting better artifacts at this point. And this leads me to the title of this video. The problem with most free-to-play guides isn't the characters they showcase, but the artifacts and the time it takes to wait for more resin to make any progress in this game. So to help prove my point, let's just try and calculate an estimate for how long this exact setup in this video would take an actual free-to-play player. So first, let's assume that this free-to-play player does not purchase Welcome Moon or Battle Pass or anything else, and has for some reason avoided all quests and anything that would give you extra rewards. So this is all through grinding. It's not exactly realistic, but it's going to be the easiest to calculate for. Also, once you get to a certain point, and you've kind of used a lot of your materials, you're kind of in the situation I am, where you're basically starting at 0 and having to grind for everything. So first let's start with the easy part. How long it takes to rank up a character from level 1 to 90 with the same talent levels as in this guide. However, let's assume all characters are C0 instead of C6. Luckily, I found this planner that will help calculate all of this for me. I assume he has Heizo's talents all at level 9 since he didn't show them like he did for the rest of the characters. So it will take about 12.9 days each character, with the exception of Bennett, who will take 14.4 days because his burst is crowned. So this adds up to 53.1 days. This calculation is assuming that you are able to get all of your gemstones in this time as well. However, if you're less lucky like me, then it might take a bit longer to get enough gemstones. Now let's figure out how long it would take for the weapons. Rather than refinement 5 like in this video, let's assume refinement 1 instead. So if you were able to craft an unlimited amount of mystic enhancement ores per day, then it would only take about 1.4 days to rank up each item. However, this is not the case. You can only craft 30 ores per day, so in reality, it takes about 20.2 days each weapon. This adds up to 80.8 days for all 4 weapons. Keep in mind, this is assuming that you aren't getting ores from any other sources other than crafting. So in reality, this estimate could likely be reduced a bit, but there are far too many variables to figure that into the calculation. Now the last part is the hardest to calculate, the artifacts. That's because there are so many random variables, it's impossible to get close to an accurate number. But that's not going to stop me from trying. Based on my personal experience, the fastest I've been able to get a semi-decent artifact set was in about 1000 resin, before ranking anything up. However, I've spent far more resin trying to get other artifact sets. In fact, I've been working on getting a decent Blizzard Strayer set for at least 8 months now. However, with Blizzard Strayer and a few other sets, you can use strong boxes instead of grinding domains. And just look at this. I just wanted to record this bit to show that I just have horrible luck. I knew that I wouldn't get anything good, but this is literally the very first crit damage circlet that I've gotten for Blizzard Strayer. And just look at these substats. They're just not good. Maybe you disagree somehow, but maybe you should get your eyes checked, to be honest. But for Ayaka especially, they're just not good. Usually at this point, I would just throw in the towel and say, I at least finally got the main set that I wanted. So, you know, hopefully I'll get real lucky with the 4th stat and it'll increase all into that 4th stat that I wanted, like crit rate or something. But that's never the case. So I'm gonna have to keep grinding. So back to the calculation. Luckily, someone has thought of this and done most of the work already. So assuming that you already have perfect artifacts that you want to rank up, it will take you about 24.4 days to rank up 5 artifacts. Being as we have 4 characters, this adds up to 97.6 days. So how long does it take to rank up this free-to-play group? 231.5 days. Again, keep in mind that this will likely take much longer if you're starting out with no artifacts, and you have to grind for some good artifacts before you even start ranking them up. If you already have perfect artifacts at rank 1, then there's a chance it'll take less time to get them to rank 20, so long as you already have the Mora and spare artifacts to rank them up with. So now let's compare my calculations to the one I found on Reddit. By their estimates, it would take 75 days to rank up a single weapon and character from rank 1 to 90, and to max out all their artifacts. So by their estimates, it would take 300 days to get a similar free-to-play team like the one showcased in this I Went to Lose Gaming video. Oh yeah, have I mentioned? This is only one team, so that means it will take somewhere between 463 and 600 days to get the same group. Now keep in mind that this isn't the only guide out there that has this problem. It's a common oversight, especially for content creators with sponsors. I can see how it would be easy to forget that it takes a really long time to grind when you can't refresh any of your resin. I can attest that the numbers I calculated are likely quite accurate for someone who is 100% free to play. For example, I've always purchased Welkin Moon and Battle Pass every month, with the exception of the first month or two, and I usually use 50 Primogems per day to refresh 60 resin. As of writing this, I currently have 406 active days logged, and 44 days ago I posted my first 36-star video. So that means it took me about 362 active days to 36-star the Abyss. So eventually you're going to run into the same problem I had. The teams that you spend all your time on will eventually not work for the Abyss, and you will need to start the process over again. So is there a way for these guides to be more accurate for actual free-to-play players? In my opinion, yes and no. For a content creator that essentially has unlimited resources, it would be incredibly hard to make a guide more accurate for an actual free-to-play player. However, it wouldn't be an impossible task. The reason it would be so difficult is because it would end up taking a lot of extra time and effort to make every video. You're going to end up failing a lot more often, which extends recording time and subsequently editing time. How do I know this? Well, as someone who is much closer to free-to-play than a whale, I know from personal experience all the repetition that it takes to make a video about the Abyss. So it will take extreme planning and consideration in order for someone with a whale account to make a video that is actually free-to-play friendly. For me, a video that would be truly free-to-play friendly would mean that the artifact subsets should be decent, not godly, and I feel it would be much more reasonable if not all characters, artifacts, and weapons were completely maxed out. However, this is another example of why it would make it more difficult to create content. For example, if you wanted to showcase a character's full damage potential, then you have to max them out. But then that would also make them not very free-to-play friendly. To be honest, they should have like a content creator mode where once you rank up your talents, you could change them to whatever you wanted. The same thing goes for the constellations. So what's my advice after all this? If you are serious about Genshin Impact and its endgame content, then just know that you need to be in it for the long haul. Even though it can be frustrating, don't give up. I would also advise you to purchase the Battle Pass and maybe even a Welkin Moon, because it will seriously end up saving you a lot of time and effort. There's also plenty of other excellent content that this game has to offer, so if you find the Abyss too daunting, you can still have a ton of fun. And if you really don't want to spend any money on this game, then I would recommend that you find smaller content creators to get your guides from. They will likely have a closer experience to you and can set more realistic expectations. You know, a small content creator. Like me. If somehow you haven't noticed yet, my channel is incredibly small. So I set a goal to be over 500 subs by the end of 2023. And in just 9 days, you guys helped me reach my goal. Thank you so much. Now I'll need your help again to reach my new goal of 1,000 subs by the end of this year. Please help me hit my goal and smash that subscribe button. That way I can keep providing you with excellent free content. And if you really want to support me, just leave a comment below. Again, thank you so much. And I hope that you found this video helpful, and just know that I really do appreciate you for making it this far. You seriously are the best. I'll catch you in the next one. Subscribe.